Good afternoon. So what I'm going to go through right now is some of our fertilizer calculations. And so the first video that is uploaded is our seeding rate calculations. So now we're going to go through these fertilizer calculations and hopefully start to pick up on some of this. So I'm going to go through step by step once again, going to talk about some of what we're looking at. So hopefully that can help us all out when we are trying to work through this math. So for our fertilizers, let's remember some key points for a fertilizer calculation. Remember, I'm going to give you what your different guaranteed fertilizers are. So if it is urea, that is a 4600. So remember, these three values are your N, your P, and your K. So when you get to something like, let's see what the question we're going to have has. It has DAP in it as well. And so our DAP guaranteed analysis is 1846. And then the question we're going to look at also is using potash. So we haven't seen that yet in class. So the potash is 0060. So all of these are NPK, NPK. So when we're looking at this, those are what those values are. They're also telling us a percentage. So if we look at urea, this value is telling us that 46% is actually nitrogen. So if we have 100 pounds of urea, 46 of those pounds will be nitrogen. That's what we're looking at. When we go through our equations and we're looking at pounds of N per acre, but we need to figure out how many pounds of urea we're purchasing, then we can actually set up our ratio to where it would be equal to 1 pound of 1 pound of urea is 0.46 pounds of nitrogen. So as we go through these, we'll start to get more familiar, hopefully, and be able to start figuring this out. If you want to be able to do this math to make sure it's going to be that 0.46 pounds, you can cross multiply and divide. So if you know you're trying to figure out how much urea is in 1 pound, or how many pounds of N is in a pound of urea, then you can do 1 pound times 46 pounds of N, divide that by 100, and then you also get 0.46. So you would know that's how many pounds of N you have in that 1 pound of urea. Or just adjust over 2 decimal places. So either way, however works best for you, we just need to be able to use that. So the question is asking us, we need to put out 120 pounds of nitrogen per acre. We also need to put out 40 pounds of phosphorus per acre. And then we're also putting out 80 pounds of K per acre. So these are what the soil test came back of how much we need to put out. Or even if you don't take a soil test, if this, you know that your nitrogen rate to get your yield potential is 120 pounds, then that's how much you're putting out. Your area that you're looking at is 55 acres. And we are going to use our urea, our DAP, and our potash in order to figure out how much we need. We are going to make a blend. So we're going to get all of these, how much urea, DAP, and potash to get these values. The co-op that can do blends will then mix all of these together so you can spread them all at once. So that's one of the benefits of being able to calculate what all you need individually, so they could be mixed together if they're going to go across the entire field. So we want to know how many tons we need to purchase. So this is one of those times that I probably would not provide the unit for tons. I'm hoping you kind of remember that. That's one of those values that we've kind of seen for quite a few years. But as a reminder now, 1 ton equals 2,000 pounds. Okay, so this is what we were told to put out: 120 pounds of N, 40 pounds of P, and 80 pounds of K. Our area that we're looking at is 55 acres, and we need to know how many tons we're going to purchase. So, when we think about this, we're in that process. Which one of these are we looking at first? Which one are we trying to decide to start with our blend to see how much we need? So for our general rule of thumb, our step 1, we're going to start with DAP because it's also putting out nitrogen. We need to have 40 pounds of P. We already know we have to have 40 pounds of phosphorus to apply to our field, and so that phosphorus, the only place we're getting that is in our DAP, and because of that we're also inherently getting some nitrogen from our DAP, so we need to account for this nitrogen and reduce the amount of urea we're going to purchase because we're already getting nitrogen in our DAP. So our area is what we're going to start out with first. So we'll have 55 acres is our field. And then since we're using DAP first, we're starting with our P. So our rate that we need to put out for phosphorus is 40 pounds of P per 1 acre. So because of that, we're going to start going. We are pausing. Okay. Trying to get things all set back up. Okay, sorry. Had some students come in to ask a question. So, we are back to our fertilizer calculation, and where we stopped was our field size and the fact that we're working with needing to put out 40 pounds of phosphorus per acre. So if we get back on track for that, then the next thing that we need to look at is it's 55 acres per field, then our 40 pounds of P per acre. We then have to still realize that we're pulling this phosphorus from our DAP. So how much phosphorus is actually in 1 pound of DAP? So if we do that, we're taking this value right here, is 46. Same thing right here, where if we had 100 pounds of DAP, that would be 46 pounds of N. So it's the same. If we did that cross multiply and divide, you would get 0.46 pounds of phosphorus. So we have 0.46 pounds of phosphorus for 1 pound of DAP. So that gets us to where we need to be at for that one. So we're going to go through where we multiply everything at the top and then divide that value by all of the numbers on the bottom. So it'd be 55 times 40 and then divide by 0.46. So we would need to purchase 4,782.61 pounds of DAP. Remember, we're rounding to 2 decimal places. So through that, we just crossed out our acres, so got rid of that, crossed out our pounds of P, and so that leaves us with pound of DAP per filled. So that's where we get this final 4,782.61 pounds of DAP. Okay, step 2. At this point in time, we need to figure out how much nitrogen we are getting from our DAP. So we have our 4782.61 pounds of DAP. The hashtag is also a pound symbol. So we get our pounds of DAP, and this is when we start to look at what this value is, because since we have 18% nitrogen in our DAP, then if we go with that idea, then we've got 0.18 pounds of nitrogen per 1 pound of DAP. Okay, so by doing this, this is going to get us how many pounds of nitrogen we're actually receiving from DAP. So you should get 860.87, and that's pounds of nitrogen from DAP. So in order to make use of this, we need to figure out how much total nitrogen we're needing based on the fact that we're putting out 120 pounds of nitrogen over that whole area. So for this, we've got our total acres. So we're going to have 55 acres. Is that field size again? We then have our nitrogen recommendation, which is 120 pounds of N per 1 acre. And then that's all we need for that point, because that's telling us when we cross out our acres that we've got pounds of N per filled. So if we go through, calculate that, we've got 55 times 120. That's going to give us 6600, so 6,600 pounds of nitrogen. So that's how much pounds of nitrogen we need from the combination of what we're getting from our DAP plus what we get from urea. So we can take this 6,600 pounds of N, we can subtract it from this 860.87 and get and so from that you're going to get 739.13, and so that's how much more nitrogen we need from urea.